Hello.
Oh,
Why were you- Hello. Sorry. I think I'm not going to apologize, but I think there's something wrong with my laptop today. It's just being, I don't know why. Um, it's
deep breaths.
honestly, do you know what it is for me? It's always technology. Always, always, always. And I know how precious your time is, so I don't want
No, no,
to.
no, 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 no. Don't worry. I have about an hour after this to do yoga, and I can definitely do that in 45
Aha.
minutes. So
Aha. I can
breathe,
see you
we're
and hear
fine.
you now. So, oh,
Amazing. Hi.
hello.
It's so good to
It's
finally meet you.
And you, it's the morning where you are, isn't it?
It's 2 p.m.
Oh. I thought you were in America. Do you know
I'm in
what? I'm so
Italy.
chaotic. In Italy. Oh, amazing.
Hmm.
Oh, oh, what a beautiful place to live.
It is fantastic. Absolutely. Yes. We moved here 5 years ago, and in August we bought a house. So we live in a beautiful villa next to a river. It is just magical.
Oh, my goodness, that sounds amazing. Honestly, I'm like, oh, right, let me just change my background. Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to leave it as is. That sounds amazing. Anyway, I'm in the UK, so it's
Mhm.
quite it's a little bit overcast and not sunny today. So yeah, it's
Right.
just
It is really sunny here today, but it's still quite cold. There's ice on the ground.
right. So pretty much all we'll do is just have obviously we'll talk about your the work that you do at the moment. I'll just do a brief introduction, a little blurb for the podcast, and then I'll introduce you. Do you want to be introduced as Suzanne? Is that all right with you, or do you have a
Uh,
preferred?
Susanna would be better.
Okay, no problem. I always ask that. And you're happy for me to record audio and video?
Sure.
Okay, amazing. I actually think yeah, it is already recording. So I'll just edit
Hmm.
this talking bit out anyway.
Right.
So, deep breath. So, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the ADHD Reframe Project with me, host Emma. And today I am joined by um, Susanna, who is joining me from Italy. So, Susanna, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, please?
A little bit, yes, absolutely. I'm Susanna. I'm an ADHD writing coach for adults. I was the first ADHD writing coach for adults when I started in 2020. I do live in Italy. We have a beautiful villa right next to a river, and I just got a little puppy. So if you hear any chewing or barking, that is why.
Aw. ADHD writing coach. Now listen, I'm fascinated. Sorry, I was just playing with the microphone now.
That's all
I'm
right.
fascinated. So when you say you're an ADHD writing coach, an adult one, so what does that entail then, please?
Oh, that entails a whole host of things. So I work with ADHD adults who need or want to write. So that is academics, it is nonfiction authors. A lot of us ADHDers have lived a life and want to write about it. So writing their memoirs, or they are journalists in higher risk jobs. There's a lot of creativity in us, and a lot of us have a desire to write about something. I also work with novelists, screenwriters, playwrights, anyone with ADHD who needs or wants to write. And what my work really entails is identifying what are the barriers that are stopping you from achieving your writing goals right now, and how can we resolve them? How can we overcome them? And sometimes that has to do with organizing. I have sessions where I sit here and someone says, I just can't write because my desk is too messy. And they go through all the items on the desk, and I give them a quick and dirty plan to free up some space. Sometimes it is about organizing a text. I have so many different ideas. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what my main argument is. And we actually talk about what it is that you want to be writing about and get clear on your argument, your story, and your structure. Sometimes it has to do with reorganizing your morning routine or creating time in your schedule or making sure that you have accountability and body doubling, for example, social pressure in a positive way to keep you motivated and moving forward. There are 1,000 different ways in which we can approach it, but what we really do is identify the challenge, the barrier that you're experiencing right now, and try to remove it.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I'm studying psychology at the moment, and I have not done any like formal studying or higher education for a long time. So yeah, I think that's why I'm so intrigued by, an ADHD writing coach,
Mhm.
because I find that my brain, even with medication, my brain kind of it moves. The thoughts are so quick that I struggle
Mhm.
to write something down, whether it's with a pen or whether it's typing, and then I get all the
Right.
words mumbled jumbled up, and it's like, but it's like it's the best kind of thing that I want to write, but by the time I've actually started writing the sentence, it's gone. And it's so
Mhm.
frustrating because then you can't ever get, it's not that I can't ever get that back, but it's very profound in that moment,
Right.
and so I've tried lots of different strategies, audio notes on my phone, just everything, typing it out on my phone quickly, or whatever. And it's like, I just think I just got to a point where I just have to roll with it day to day, because
Mhm.
it is the way that I am. And it's just, yeah. So I'm getting a bit tongue tied now because my little brain's going quickly. But yeah,
Right.
so when I saw that you were an ADHD writing coach, I was like, oh, I'd love to talk to you because it's fascinating. Like, the
Mhm.
accountability, the body doubling, and the task. I think people call it, is it task paralysis? So it's the
Sure.
procrastination in getting started. But for
Yes.
me, I have to get to a point where the hyper focus kicks in. So the deadline
Mhm.
is, say, Monday, and then the hyper focus will kick in on the Thursday or the
Mhm.
Friday. Um,
Right. And that is
so
true for a lot of high-performing ADHDers. So many people I work with, especially this really starts to bite people in the butt, if I can use that language on your podcast,
of course, use
when
any
they
language you like.
when they get to the dissertation stage. Because a lot of us, especially high-performing ADHDers who have had like a whole journey through the education system, that is how we work, right? We wait for the deadline, we wait for the urgency and the pressure, and then we ride that wave. We burn through all of our resources, all of our energy, all of our focus. We give it our all, and we produce it in the last 2 days or so, and then we crash.
Yeah.
So that has worked for us for a very long time when we needed to write 2,000, 3,000, maybe even 6,000 word papers. It worked okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't enjoyable. Maybe our relationship suffered. Maybe our mental health suffered. There's a lot of things that might have suffered. But in that moment, when you catch that wave, it feels amazing. It feels wonderful. You are in the zone, you're in the flow, you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're probably not even doubting yourself anymore. All of those stories that you're telling yourself, all of those negative spirals, all of that disappears. You're just in the zone and you're just writing. That works for a very long time. And then you get to a point where you have to write a whole book or you have to write a whole dissertation. And there's no such thing as writing it at the last minute because it's impossible to write a dissertation in the last 2 days, right? That is something that needs to be a sustainable process over time. And that is often when ADHDers first find me because there's no research on ADHD and writing. There's no content really, or there was no content before I started my work about ADHD and writing. Uh, we don't know that there are solutions. We just think that this is our own fault. We just need to try harder, or we just have to accept that this is how our ADHD brain works and we're never going to be good at this. But when you are faced with that situation where an external factor, like you're going to lose your scholarship if you don't write this. You're going to lose your book contract if you don't write this. There's real consequences, but you can't use the systems that you have used in the past. That is often when people actively start thinking, hey, might there be someone in the world, perhaps, who can help with this? So it is often because there's so little awareness around how ADHD affects the writing process. It is usually in these crisis states that people first find me when the process that you are describing, which has worked so well for shorter form, no longer works.
Yeah. So you're almost like an ADHD writing coach, but also a crisis management coach as well, because you're kind of managing the chaos of the overwhelming panic and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And yeah,
absolutely. Yes. There is crisis management. There is, I think every part, look, every part of your life that is affected by ADHD, um, also finds its way in some shape or form into in the writing process. So when you struggle to keep your room clean, that probably also means that you have 1,000 browser tabs open and you don't know where to find that article that you read last week, right? Because that disorganization carries over into everything to do with writing. If you have trouble managing time, then that is going to affect the writing process too, right? If you have trouble motivating yourself and initiating tasks, that's going to find itself in writing. If you often get overwhelmed and you only see the big task, the big project, and you can't break it down to the smaller parts, so you can't pace yourself and make consistent progress because everything is just so big and overwhelming, you don't even know where to start. That's going to happen in writing as well. So yeah, I'm a crisis manager, but I'm pretty much every ADHD like job that exists now, there are parts of it that also exist within ADHD writing, if that makes sense.
yeah, of course. So
Mm.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
This
that's
keeps
all right.
happening to me. I'll edit this bit out, but oh, sorry. So yeah, I mean, tick, as you're talking about this stuff, I'm saying, yep, me tick, me tick, me tick, me tick, me tick. So yeah, and I think I'm a distance learner, so I study 100% online because it just
Mm.
works really well for me, but it doesn't.
Right.
But obviously my academic writing has slowly got improved over the each module. Sorry, excuse me. But it's still like literally exhausting after I finished it, because it's like I start earlier, so I will
Mhm.
start much earlier than 3 days before the deadline now. But
Right.
I do find that sometimes my best work is only produced in that hyper focus. So even if I start, I have to go through and obviously edit, and then that's when I kind of can synthesize everything together, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've had some long writing uh, sessions. Let's say the last one last week was 18 hours to get everything finished.
Oof.
Because I was going because it was my 50th birthday last year, and my daughter had booked for us to go off. I'm going off on a tangent now, but this is what ADHD is. My daughter had booked for us to go away for the weekend, and the submission deadline was this Monday, but I wasn't going to be home, so I had to get it finished by Friday or get an extension. And I didn't really want. I try my hardest not to get an extension unless I desperately need it, because I want to kind of have a break in between the
Mhm.
modules that I study. So anyway, yeah, on Friday, 18 hours. Um,
Oof.
and I submitted at 2 o'clock on Saturday morning, and then I was just exhausted. Thankfully, it
Mhm.
didn't affect the weekend, because my daughter was happy for us to chill out and, just relax and have a nice time. So, but yeah, it's hardcore, isn't it? And it's like, how,
Mhm.
how, how then do I kind of break that cycle of needing 18 hours just to finish something? It's just insane. Absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
So the first thing that I would talk to you about is the needing the hyper focus. Because I am wondering, people have said that to me before. And in the end, it turned out that they didn't need the hyperfocus, but that was a story they had been telling themselves. And therefore they were kind of blocking their productivity outside of the hyperfocus. Because I think that we are such all or nothing thinkers. We think either we have the perfect flow state or we can't get anything done. Either we have the perfect time to write, like ideally I would write 4 hours. If I don't have 4 hours, there's no point in even starting. This all or nothing thinking can play a huge role in this in answering the question, do you actually need the hyperfocus? Because if you can find a way to write without hyperfocus, hyperfocus is wonderful. Hyperfocus also, it is very addictive, but hyperfocus is also exhausting. Hyperfocus drains you. When you get out of hyperfocus, I'm really glad that your daughter was fine to hang out with you and just chill. But when I get out of 18 hours of hyperfocus, I am not pleasant. I am not a wonderful person to be around. I am not fun. I will need a few days to recharge. I often talk about this. I say a lot of ADHD management's energy management. If you are tired, then it becomes harder to focus. All your ADHD symptoms get worse, and that means that everything you do costs more energy. So when you get tired with ADHD, it is a downward spiral. Now, I think that you can start managing energy as though you're managing money. So you can say, for example, I have this much in my bank account. There's a uh, there's a wonderful Ferrari here that is the exact amount that I have in my bank account. I want this Ferrari. I will buy it. That I will not judge you for doing that. You can absolutely do that. What you do need to accept, however, is after you buy the Ferrari, you need to make more money before you can spend it.
Of course.
And the same is true with energy. You can absolutely, no judgment from me whatsoever, decide to sit down for 18 hours and spend all your energy resources, burn through all your reserves, and give it your all. You can spend every single penny you have, but you do need to accept that after that, you need to make more energy before you can spend more. You cannot expect yourself. You can, we probably do, but you shouldn't reasonably expect yourself to just get back to your desk the next day and do good work. That's not how it works. So I often give people a choice and I say, is this working for you? If this is working for you right now, great. Let's do it, but let's accept it. Let's plan for it. And let's just accept that you are going to be writing your essay in the last few days. That's fine. So what are we going to do with the rest of this time? Is there anything we can do to set you up to do the research, but make sure that it doesn't take up too much time? Do the research, do everything you might otherwise have done during those days where you're now going to be exclusively writing and recovering afterwards. Let's say 3 days of recovery after such a long, intense, hyper-focused writing session. So let's say that's 5 days. So what else would you have done in those 5 days? Can we move that forward so that you don't create a crisis for yourself by going down that rabbit hole? So there would be some planning there, but the other option would be if it isn't working for you, and if you would like to have both a writing practice and a fulfilling daily life, then maybe we can figure out if there's a way to pace yourself to do good work even when you don't have this deadline rush. Does this make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. Yeah, of course.
Hmm. So that is how I would go about this as your writing coach.
Right, so I suppose I've almost been doing that, but didn't realize that I was actually doing it. So for me to get
Mm.
started writing earlier, although it's not producing the best work, what I've asked for is the reasonable adjustment of having a 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes appointment with one of the lecturers that is teaching me in the current study block, and then setting small achievable goals every week where I'm working
Right.
towards that hyper focus. So I'm actually, although like 18 hours, I wouldn't normally, I would have done that over the weekend. It wouldn't have been, it's only because I was going away that
Hmm.
I did it all in one day, an evening. But normally I wouldn't do that. I would break it down, and I did do, I did the Pomodoro technique, and I had like 50 minutes, sorry, of full concentration, and then I'd walk away. And then what I've actually learned as well is to kind of when I'm in the hyper focus, or when I get tired and I can feel my brain is getting a bit sluggish, what I do is I'll do the Pomodoro 50 minutes, and then I'll do something that gets the dopamine going in my brain, which is usually to do with ADHD. So that might be talking about it, writing about it, reading something, and then I'll come back to the writing. But
Hmm.
yeah, I
Can I,
think
oh, wait. Okay. So there's two amazing things that you have done there. One, I think speaking with your lecturer, asking as that for that as your reasonable accommodation is wonderful. Setting yourself up for success by having weekly deadlines, brilliant. That is how you start pacing yourself because you're giving yourself mini deadlines with accountability because this teacher knows about the schedule, right? So that is one way in which you are already accommodating yourself. Look, you have been writing, or we have all ADHD adults have been writing for our entire lives. We have started to accommodate ourselves. And that is one way in which you have done a brilliant job figuring out what it is that you need and putting it in place. I cannot commend you more. That is wonderful. The second thing that you mentioned, I'm trying to read back the um, okay, I am completely lost now and I've forgotten what brilliant thing you
I
mentioned, but I'm
said
sure
that
it'll come back. Oh yeah.
go on.
You have not used the Pomodoro method. You have made it your own. Because a lot of people who hear of the Pomodoro method think, oh, I need to do 25 minutes. This doesn't work for me, so Pomodoro doesn't work for me. That's our all or nothing thing as ADHDers. What you have done is what I recommend a lot of people also do, and that is figure out what your attention span is. When the Pomodoro timer goes off after 20 minutes, have you been staring at your timer for 10 minutes because your focus was gone and the 25 minutes weren't up yet and you couldn't take your break yet? Then you probably need to set shorter timers. Or if the Pomodoro timer goes off after 25 minutes and you feel frustrated because you only just got started and you're just in the flow and now you have to stop, then the timer should probably be longer. And what you have done is you have figured out for me, the perfect time is 50 minutes. That is what I'm going to do. For me, it used to be 45 when I studied. 45 minutes for me was perfect. So two things that you have done is you have taken systems and structures that existed and made them your own to accommodate for your own challenges and make things easier on yourself. And I think that that is exemplary.
Thank you. When people say nice things to me, I still go a bit silly. It's
Mhm.
it's the ADHD thing. But thank you. No, and I think I realised that because I don't know if any of our listeners are unsure about what the Pomodoro technique is, but
Hmm.
Pomodoro technique is really good for people with ADHD. So it's explained as a time of focus, a le- length timed length of focus where you just focus on one task. It can be 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, however many minutes you want to concentrate for. And then you have a break, say for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you come back to another focus session. I find it useful when I'm doing the academic writing, but yeah, I've kind of edited it into mine because I know what my brain needs to get it
Mhm.
focused, I think. So
Right.
if I focus for a certain amount of time, I'll get up and move around. I might talk to my partner. I might read something. I might listen to anything, and or do something that I'm fascinated with, which is always ADHD because I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with it. But yeah, and then I'll do that for 50 minutes, break again, and then go back. And that's just the way because it's I did since I've started doing my studies, like I'm obsessed with neuroscience, and I never thought I would be interested in kind of understanding the processes of the brain. But obviously, having ADHD, I'm being fascinated with that as kind of biological psychology and social psychology have been my two favorite subjects, my two favorite modules. So looking at, the dopamine in the brain and how can I kind of, I kind of do little tests and stuff like what's the best thing to get the dopamine going in my brain, and I will do these things, and it's like if I said this out loud, people would probably think I'm bonkers, but I am quite bonkers, but I don't mind talking about this stuff because these are just the things that I found that work really well for me. um
Mhm.
so yeah, it's just, because 18 hours or any length of time, even if I did that in say 10 hours or 5 hours, nobody, and I it wasn't until someone said to me at some point last year that nobody, student, staff, lecturer, anyone that's studying or teaching, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, the full concentration is around 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, I thought that was just because I've got ADHD. And then no, it's not, is it? It's not.
Mhm.
Everybody, like nobody can fully concentrate like at that hyper focus level for long periods of time. And I think for me it kind of then it made me realize that actually I'm doing all right, then I can concentrate for a whole hour.
Right.
So yeah, it's just fascinating. I just
Mm.
think, and also I always say to everyone, like the process between my brain and my fingers, whether I'm writing or typing, is just it's missing. It's missing.
Mm.
But it's actually not missing. I am capable, but I think like there's a lot of toxic negativity still surrounding ADHD and adult women, I think. And obviously
Mhm.
the awareness is becoming more and more understood. But I
Right.
do think that there is we've still got a long way to go before we can kind of just sit here and
Yes.
think I'm good.
I
I'm
think so too. There's a lot to unlearn. And I think that this experience that people go through when they get diagnosed late in life, they learn about all the things that they always thought were just them not being good enough or not trying hard enough or having a problem or being wrong or being bad. They now learn, oh no, this was ADHD all along. And they go through this wonderful process of, well, there's grief, there's anger, but there's also a relief, there's an unmasking, there's a connecting with other stories from other people who have done the same things, who have experienced the same things. There is people sharing their weird and then hearing from others, oh yeah, me too. There's a lot of relief and a lot of acceptance and embracing going on right now online, which is wonderful and such a warm bath after all this negativity that we're mired in for our entire lives until we get this diagnosis. Now, that is wonderful. What my mission is to do the same thing for ADHD writers. Because if we don't talk about ADHD in writing, if there's no stories about how ADHDers, how individual ADHDers experience the writing process, the problems that they're going through, the fact that they can sometimes sit down for 18 hours and write a whole essay, but then another day, for the life of them, they don't even know how to find the file that they worked on last. Then if you don't see those other stories, then you are going to have that same experience you had before you had your diagnosis and started to get to tap into all this knowledge that exists and the stories that exist around ADHD, right? So I feel that the experience, the journey that a lot of us went through after we got diagnosed, or for me, about 15 years after I got diagnosed, because when I was diagnosed, we didn't know anything yet. Um, that experience, that journey, we also need in writing because there are so many people, so many ADHDers who embrace their weird and who embrace their awkwardness and who embrace their irks and odd qualities in their personal life, but when it comes to writing, they think, okay, so clearly I'm not cut out for this. Clearly I can't do this. No one else struggles with this. I just need to try harder because that is what we were taught in school. You just need to try harder, apply yourself more, and then you can finally live up to that potential that you have and we know you have. And why haven't you reached it yet? And that narrative is so embedded in our subconscious. And as long as you don't see the stories of other people who have the same struggles you do and who have the same experiences you do, there's no reason to believe that you don't have to try harder, you just need a different way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You just made me kind of think back to, my schooling, back to being an adult, working and trying to, write notes of people that I've spoken to and keep kind of, written documentation throughout all of the jobs. And I sometimes look back and think I dread anyone else to have to read my notes, because sometimes they didn't even make sense to me when I had to go back in, and I was like, what I,
Mhm.
and it's, and then kind of just to kind of just think, oh no, all of them people that probably have to read my notes and they're like, what is she even talking about? It's because
Right.
yeah, so it's just, it's, yeah, it's fascinating. And I remember back, all of my school reports all said, if Emma tried harder, concentrated more and tried harder, she's a very bright young student, but she just needs to try harder. And I'm like, oh my god, like, and I think the reason
Right.
why I've just done, uh I actually didn't think that I would be accepted to do a degree. I don't know why, but it's that negative kind of
Mhm.
conditioning that, even from back at school. Um, it's, and I didn't think that I would be accepted, because I just thought that I wasn't, I'm just going to say it out loud. So basically, I've always believed, and I've always been told by my narcissistic mother that I'm thick. I'm thick, and why bother? And that kind of almost became my internal narrative,
Mhm.
until a few years ago. And it's like I applied to do the university degree, and I never dreamed, I didn't even think I'd be accepted. Um, but I was. And then I've gone on to kind of, although I do have to put more time and effort in, not always 18 hours, but it's normally,
Mhm.
a long time. I actually get really good grades, and that still surprises me, because I'm like, I'm not
Mhm.
thick. I needed to kind of be supported, and I needed to understand. And, I was diagnosed in 2019 with ADHD. So, I've had a little time to kind of think about it and see how the symptoms kind of present in me. But I think because when I was much younger, I tried and failed so many different
Mhm.
courses, or did like so many different types of studying. And
Yeah.
I look back and I can feel sad, because I think actually if I'd have just been brave enough to put my hand up and say, I don't understand that, can you maybe explain that to me in a different way, then
Mhm.
maybe I wouldn't have. But then I do feel that every kind of everything that bad that happened to me in my past,
Right.
I turn that into a positive now to keep me going. So it's not that I can't, it's just that I'm different. I'm not thick. I'm highly intelligent,
Mhm.
actually. But I just needed a little bit of confidence in myself.
Right.
And even just talking to you today, it's like it's given me, I sometimes feel like an imposter, because I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm just little old Emma, trying to plod along and get on with my life. But
Right.
actually, you know, there's, so yeah, I love these conversations just
Well, there's a
around.
few things that I want to say too. One, yes, you probably needed structure, you probably needed support, you needed a little bit more attention,
Yep.
ironically.
Yeah.
But there's also something else that I reflected on recently in my own education journey. I realized that every time I went up a level, in the Netherlands, there are different levels in high school. I moved, it's very unusual. I moved from the middle to the high level in high school. My grades went up. Then I went to university, do my bachelor's. My grades went up. Then I did a master's. my grades went up. So I was reflecting on that. And one of the reasons why, no, the two main reasons why this happened is not because suddenly I had more discipline and I tried harder. The reason why my grades went up and I was a slightly above average student in high school, and then I got progressively better compared to my peers in later experiences, is two reasons. One, I had more freedom in the courses that I could take. So I could choose things that aligned with my interests and my passions. So I wasn't doing things anymore because I had to. I was doing things because I wanted to. So that was one thing. I found my passion, my interests, and I could do courses and write papers that aligned with my passions and interests. So there's a good chance that one of the reasons why you failed at all those other programs is because they were wrong for you. This was always going to be your calling. You just found it a little bit later in life than you would have liked.
Yeah.
So one is the interest. The second is challenge. So I needed the right level of challenge. And the harder things got, the more my brain thought, oh, this is juicy, this is interesting. I can sink my teeth into this, right? I can figure this out instead of memorizing long lists of English words and then failing the tests over and over again because I couldn't memorize for the life of me. If you tell me a story, I can understand it, but don't ask me to memorize anything. That's not going to happen. I need context. So part of it for me was the interest and part of it was the challenge. So the reason why my grades were bad, and this is not something that crosses anyone's mind when you are in school. The reason why my grades were bad was not because I wasn't smart enough. It was because the level was too low. I wasn't challenged enough. So there might have been something, and of course, your mother's rhetoric completely overrid every potential of seeing that possibility. But looking back, it might have actually been the opposite. You might actually have been too smart for your programs. Anyway, the puppy is calming back down. Good. I don't know
Oh,
if you were hearing it through the
no,
headphones.
no, no, not at all.
Okay,
No,
good.
don't worry. No.
He was barking. Anyway, yes. Does that help you at all?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It just, yeah, it's something that I'll think about. And then in a few days I'll come back to and I'll be like, I'll message you on LinkedIn and I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, oh my God.
Good.
Like, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm. There's a psychiatrist called William Dodson. Have you heard from him? Heard of
No,
him? He writes a lot for Attitude magazine. William Dodson is most famous for coming up with the term interest-based nervous system.
yeah, I've heard of, yeah,
So he says neurotypical people are motivated by importance. If something is important, then they are motivated to work on it. Neurodivergent people, ADHDers, are not interested or motivated by importance at all. It is the strategy that our caregivers constantly use to get us to do things. This is important. If you don't do this, there are going to be consequences. This is important. You have to do it. But that doesn't work for us.
yeah,
We are motivated by four things, according to William Dodson. We're motivated by interest slash passion, novelty. If something is new, it is exciting, we want to do it. Challenge, and I usually group gamification under that too,
yeah,
because there's people who say, "Oh yeah, I'm not competitive at all." That's not all challenge is. There's a whole host of things there, and urgency pressure. Now, a lot of us high-performing ADHDers have been learning to rely on urgency and pressure as our main source of motivation. We wait until something is urgent, we wait until there's pressure, or we add more deadlines to give ourselves those motivation boosts that we need.
yeah,
Uh, that is helpful, it's effective. If it is your sole source of motivation that you rely on, and you rely on it week after week, it is also a recipe for burnout. That's not his words, that's mine. Um, so I think that interest and passion cannot really be simulated. all you can do is see what am I doing in my life that I need to be motivated for? And does it align with my deeper interests and passions? And I'm not talking about your new hyperfixation, your new hobby. I'm talking about this deep underlying, you are interested in ADHD, that is your passion, that is your interest. And sometimes you find a new model or a new author or a new field of research, and you go deep down that rabbit hole. That fuels your hyperfixation. The tool, the new app is your hyperfixation, but it all ties into that deeper interest and passion that is pretty much unchanging. It's probably going to stay with you for a very, very, very long time. So what you can do is you can see what is going on in my life that I need to motivate myself for, and does it align with my interests and passions? But you cannot simulate interest passion. You cannot trick yourself into being passionate about something. That's not how passion works. So in my coaching, I often focus on novelty and challenge. I say, okay, so interest and passion, that's important to know. It's important to take into account when you start a new project. Ask yourself, is this just a flight of fancy? Is this something that I'm going to be interested in for a couple of weeks because it is new? Or does it actually tie into my interest and passion? That's very important to know, but not something we can play with. Urgency and pressure, you probably have already perfected. Maybe we should try to move a little bit away from that and see if in the novelty and challenge areas, there aren't strategies and tools and ways that we can give you an intrinsic motivation to start working on it, to make you excited to work on it, to make you excited to go back to that paper that is only due 4 weeks from now, but you can't stop thinking about it because you want to do something with it, right? So William Dodson, very smart man, the INCU model of ADHD motivation, I think can be incredibly helpful when you are struggling to get yourself to do things. I don't know how we got here, but I do think it is very good to know for any ADHDer who needs to do anything. Yes.
Yeah, it's intriguing because, I've always kind of like psychology, I think for me is a perfect subject because it's all about
Mhm.
human behavior and obviously, investigating human behavior and what makes us all tick. And I think that has definitely helped me because I don't think I could have done a university degree on anything else but ADHD.
Mhm. I completely
I
understand
would
that.
love to have a full degree that's just about ADHD, but we're not there yet in the UK or anyway, I don't think. But
I know.
you've just made me realise that one of my very early tutor lecturers back in my first year said to me, because she said, "Oh, what do you want to do when you've graduated?" And I was like, "Well, I'd just really like to work with people with ADHD." And she's like, "Huh, interesting." But anyway, she gave me a little bit of advice, and she said to me, "So if that's the case, then try and incorporate a little bit of something to do with ADHD in every single assignment that I write." And there's only been two that I haven't been able to do that. And that's quantitative research methods, numbers, not my thing at all. I just
Mm.
can't, my brain doesn't work out numbers, and qualitative because they were topic specific. So there wasn't any
Mm.
way I could kind of
Right.
incorporate them into it. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've tried to do. And I find like when I get onto the real world examples and they want you to give like strengths, limitations, real world examples and ethics and stuff, that's kind of where I begin to shine because I can just incorporate the complex but interested ADHD
Mhm.
stuff into it. And I think
Yes.
maybe like the last paper that I wrote before the one I've just submitted was personality and intelligence. We could choose culture or genetics, and I chose genetics, and I incorporated ADHD throughout the whole of it, like all of it, because we had to choose a few approaches, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Like that was just
Mhm.
I enjoyed that so much, and it just there you go. It goes to show, doesn't it, that if you've actually got something that you're really interested in, and there's a novelty to it,
Mhm.
like that was all done, and I think I submitted quite a few hours before the deadline, and I didn't have an extension, but I thoroughly enjoyed writing that. That was just a joy. And although
Hmm.
the genetics, talking about genetics and heritability and stuff, was a little bit complex, but once I kind of got my understanding, what I find is I have to read something, then I have to process the information, and it's that processing of the information that takes the time sometimes. So when
Mm.
it comes to me, like I have to give myself a certain amount of time to kind of think and process. And if I say that to other people, they're like, what do you mean you need to think and process? And I'm like, well, ADHD, sometimes I need to,
Mhm.
that
It's
that
true.
is actually part of my writing, is me processing the information.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that we need to have a much broader definition of writing. So sometimes I also host body doubling sessions every Tuesday. And people come hang out with me for an hour or more, and they bring their own work. And someone once asked me, or some people actually frequently ask me, is it okay if I do research? Is it okay if I do editing instead of writing new words? And I say, yeah, of course, because that is all part of the writing process. So I've started to talk about writing related tasks. And writing related tasks can absolutely include processing information and thinking it through. And sometimes you are writing while you're in the shower because things come to you, you are starting to make connections. I have a pro tip. I have a bath crayon in the shower, so I can write on the wall when I have ideas.
Nice.
Um, because the shower is a great place to write. You just don't have a computer or you don't have a pen and paper because that is all part of the writing process. And you're absolutely right. I work with quite a few people who say, for me, the writing process is always going to be slower.
Yeah.
It's always going to be slower because I need all this processing time. And when you realize that when you are on a deadline, that can be a little bit of a challenge. There can still be ways that maybe you can speed things up. There can be strategies and tools that will help you make the connections faster, or see your way through the connections faster, which is usually our challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is absolutely true that often we just need a little bit more time, not on exams, but to create original thought pieces. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I'm so glad my degree doesn't mean I've got to take any exams, because I think that would be the challenge. That would be a challenge for me, because my memory
Hmm.
recall in the moment is just, it's
Yes.
like, no, thank you. No,
Mine
thank you.
too. I operate as though my memory is non-existent. So I have externalized my memory bank. I do not rely on my internal memory at all. And my computer holds my memory. If I write notes, I write them as though I'm writing for a stranger because I know that the person who's going to be reading it is going to be a stranger. I have no idea who tomorrow's Susanna is, but she's going to probably be very grateful that a kind stranger who lived yesterday left her a note that could be decoded by even a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that that is one of the biggest benefits of embracing and accepting your ADHD challenges. So when I used to think that there were two ways to approach the ADHD diagnosis, and one was saying, okay, I have ADHD, so clearly I can't do this. I have met those people. And the other one was saying, I have ADHD, but it's not going to stop me. I thought those were the two responses to ADHD. I have found that there's actually a third.
Oh,
And the third is not, it's not going to stop me. The third is, I now understand which parts I struggle with, what I am good at and what I'm not good at, and I'm going to orient my life around my strengths and make sure that my challenges don't play such a big role anymore. So it's not acting as though you don't have ADHD and pushing through and just pretending it doesn't exist. It is fully accepting and embracing what you are and aren't good at, being ruthfully honest, and then organizing your life around it.
yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, strength based. I had some based coaching. I applied for a grant because I wouldn't be able to afford to pay for it otherwise, and I was
Mm.
awarded the grant, and I had some strength based coaching. And since then, it's like just focusing on on my strengths, the positives, rather than even outside of the ADHD, just me as a person,
Mhm.
focusing on my strengths, and not really kind of giving the weaknesses or the negatives any airspace, let's say. And yeah, there are things that I find challenging, but I think literally, and in psychological terms as well, they would say that you're reconditioning yourself to kind of think positively rather than negatively. um
Yeah,
and
yes, but also we need to be careful not to fall into toxic positivity. I will never say ADHD is a superpower. ADHD can be disabling.
yes,
ADHD causes many problems, challenges, struggles, crises on a weekly basis. And we might be good in crises, and it might feel good to be able to handle the crisis, but that doesn't mean that it's enjoyable to always live from crisis to crisis and crash in between. I will never say ADHD is a superpower. I do think so. I am not a toxic positivity guru who says, oh, yeah, there's not a cloud on the horizon. We are just all wonderful, powerful superheroes who can do anything. No, I am saying figure out what you're good at. And if you realize that your memory recall is shit, then don't rely on it. I have figured out that my memory recall is shit, but I am very good at system-based thinking that allows me to build databases that make me incredibly happy, that make my brain so excited, that make me happy to use it, and that I can figure out, that I can understand in such a way that I can actually pull data and information from my computer at a moment's notice. I don't need my internal memory. So I am not ignoring my challenges. I'm not ignoring my weaknesses. I am saying, okay, so which of my strengths can I use to compensate for these weaknesses? For example, you said sometimes you struggle or often you struggle translating your thoughts to the page, right?
yeah, yeah,
And part of that is that your thinking is too fast. That is
yeah,
something that we're going to put to the side for now. I heard that. That is important,
yeah,
that is valuable, but that's a different problem. But
yeah,
if you cannot translate your words to the page very well, then what you can ask yourself is, okay, so what can I translate my thoughts to? For example, am I really good at making PowerPoints? Okay, great. So what if we take your ideas and we use a PowerPoint to outline your paper? And then based on the PowerPoint, you write the sections. Based on each slide, for each slide, you write a section. Maybe that is even still difficult to translate from a PowerPoint to written text, but the PowerPoint helps you organize your thoughts. So maybe that is where, as you said, the speech to text can help. Because normally, if you give a PowerPoint presentation, you look at the slide and you tell people a story, right? If that is what you're good at, then why not tell that story to your computer who then translates it into written text and you have your first draft done? So if you're good at PowerPoints, then your strength in PowerPoint presentations can compensate for this weakness in translating direct thoughts directly to the page. That makes sense? So it's not complete positivity, like strengths-based, what is it? I have a friend who is a positive psychology like person. It's not quite that. It is more instead of beating yourself with that stick of I can't do this, ask yourself, what can I do and how can that help?
yeah.
That is often my approach.
I would call that a coping strategy
Maybe,
because you are,
yes.
yeah.
But
You're
but
looking
I
at you.
I don't think coping is the aim though.
Okay,
I am a little bit higher than just coping. I
right,
think maybe it's a thriving strategy.
yeah. I mean, I love a mind map. I like
Oh,
mind maps
yes.
because mind maps are
Hmm.
just. I've got this a specific software that was given to me through DSA. And yeah, mind maps. I love a mind map, but the problem
Me
is
too.
problem with anything is I can't keep it brief, so I need to really be
Mm.
careful where when I'm doing something, particularly when it's my studies, because if they want me to give a brief historical breakdown of whatever approach it is, then I'm going to go right back to the 1800s and I'm going to give you like almost a kind of, whereas you can't do that, can you? Because you don't have enough
Yeah.
words to do that. But
Yes.
it's like, but the mind mapping tool is just amazing because
Mm.
it's a visual representation, and then I can export it quite easily into a Word document. And
It is
then
visual, but there's a second quality too. So my theory is that neurotypical people, and I don't know because I'm not a neurotypical person, I never talk to those people, but my theory is that a neurotypical person thinks in a linear way, in a straight line. They think from point A to point B to point C, point D. My theory is that we ADHDers think in a two-dimensional way. We start with one thing and then we see the connections to three others, and then those three others connect to everything else, right?
yeah,
I can give you two completely random topics, and your brain is probably going to be able to connect those topics within a second.
yeah,
So I think that the thing about the mind map is, yes, it's visual, but it's also two-dimensional. And that means that the mind map kind of corresponds to the way that our brains work, the way that we constantly fire and see all these different connections. I am a huge fan of the mind map. Now, one other thing about the mind map is that it is a map. And like any map, you can draw a route on the map. So you can take the two-dimensional map and then you can say, okay, so these are all my thoughts on the subject. So let me, I don't know why I took my pen out. Let me draw a line through this map and tell myself, first I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go there, then I'm going to go there, then I'm going to go there. So that's a way to translate the two-dimensional map to a one-dimensional piece of writing, because writing is one-dimensional. It is a storyline, a line of argumentation. You need to take your reader from point A to point B. And this is a way to translate the two-dimensional into the one-dimensional. Again, it is a way to use your strength, your two-dimensional way of thinking, to compensate for your weakness, not being able to think one-dimensionally. Okay?
yeah.
So I think mind maps are fantastic.
I don't know if it's me or you, Susanna, but I can't hear you anymore. Can you still hear
Oh,
me?
I
Oh,
can
I can hear you
still,
again now. Yeah, now I can hear
oh,
you again.
it was my internet connection. Where did I cut out?
Um, I can't remember. Two dimensional, one dimensional, you were saying. So
Okay,
mind
yes.
maps are amazing for
Yes,
that.
mind maps are amazing because they are two-dimensional and they help you translate your two-dimensional way of thinking into the one-dimensional line that is any written text. It's a storyline, a line of argumentation. You need to take your reader from point A to point B. So this is a way to translate your two-dimensional thinking into a one-dimensional line, which is great. I am a big fan of mind maps. Now, the thing about what you said about they only need a small paragraph, and I want to give them like a whole like book on the history of this concept, it might help to treat it like a filling in exercise. So I think there are two types of research. There is the pre-writing research where you have to get familiar with a new field, you have to figure out what other people have said so that you know how to position yourself, etc. This is academic and nonfiction and not fiction. Um, and there is fact-finding missions. There is, in what year was this? What is the exact shift that I'm talking about? What did X author say, right?
Hmm.
So I think that if you have done your pre-writing research and you already kind of know what you want to say, you know kind of the story of what you want to say, and then you stop writing, you look at the exercise, you see how many words there are. Let's say there's 100 words, that is a couple of sentences. Well, in that case, what do these couple of sentences need to say? Start there. What does sentence A say? What does sentence B say? What does sentence C say? And then only find the information you need to answer the question that you have posed for that sentence. So a lot of times getting clearer and more cogent and more short in our writing means pulling back from the weeds that we always get lost in, and first asking ourselves, okay, what do we actually need? What is it that I'm trying to say? How much room do I have to say it in? So what do I need to make this argument, to make this point, to tell the story that I want to tell? So purpose for me is a huge tool in terms of writing and editing and getting clear in what it is that you're doing. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree because I don't really like wasting anything. It's not
Mm-mm.
even like it's like I don't like wasting my time. I don't like wasting my energy. I don't like wasting money, food, anything. It's like it's almost
Right.
like I can't cope with. So that's why a lot of the time when I'm doing the academic writing, I can get stuck because I can't actually. I need to kind of, it's not reassurance, but I need to know that I'm going on the right track. I'm going
Yes.
down the right track. So that's why, having the reasonable adjustments that I've got from my university is really useful
Yes.
because that I can then have like a weekly time, or even just ping an email to the inbox and say, is
Mm-hmm.
obviously not send them my writing because it's anonymous marking, but I can write, with just some brief kind of points that I want to include. Is this right? And then it's a yes or a no,
Yes.
or it's
Precisely.
kind of, yeah, you're kind of going around along the right track, but you know um and yeah, so it just becomes the more that and I think as well because it's different. Like writing an essay is different to a case study, writing a research report is different to
Mm-hmm.
an essay, and everything. And I think the biggest challenge for me is when I have to learn a new writing style, so going
Yes.
from quantitative to qualitative. I prefer qualitative because it's words, but reading the data, all of them words, and my brain was just like mush. And it's like, but every time I learn a new skill, and because I'm not always writing in every essay, I'm not writing a results section for a multiple linear regression, or I'm not writing an IPA for a, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing them two things like every single time. And what I've
Right.
found with me is if I learn how to do something, I need to be practically shown how to do it. So I would need someone to sit and say to me, right, you know, and then they record it and send me a copy, and they're like, right, they go through the steps that need to be gone through to kind of, and then what I find I need to do that one thing repeatedly over and over and over again, and then almost becomes second nature, and it's just something that I can do easily or easier. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a advice for maybe the listeners today. They're the things that I've kind of really, because I remember when I was working, I had to be shown how to do things, but then because you're doing them daily, it then means that you can almost
Mm-hmm.
learn to do them quicker, and you can
Right.
just get on with them. Whereas when it comes to academic writing, not that, I'm not capable, it's just because you're learning new skills, but then you're not doing it the same way every single time, are you? And I know that
Mm-hmm.
they have to do it the way that they do it because we have to get the full kind of academic writing skills and stuff. But it's just, yeah, how have I kind of combated my I don't know how to do this. Like, you
Mm.
know, don't send me
Right.
a YouTube link to watch a video on YouTube because I can't really kind of learn that way either. I prefer
Mm.
to actually sometimes like verbally talk to people and say, this is what, or this
Right.
is what I'm doing, this, 1 to 5. Is this what you want? Is this the
Yep.
expectation? Yes, amazing. Go back, get on with it. Whereas I don't
And for
think,
those people who are no longer students, who are academics themselves, or who are working in NGOs, or they're working on their own book, and they don't have this possibility of the reasonable adjustments, that is what we ADHD writing coaches are for. So we take the role of your supervisor, or your teachers. We take the role of we are the people that you send your piece to and say, is this right? We are the people that you come to and say, hey, look, I have been writing academic pieces for the last 20 years,
yeah,
but now I'm writing in a completely different discipline and I don't understand. Can you help me work through this? That is what we are there for. So we are pretty much the reasonable adjustments for people who don't have them.
Woohoo.
Yes.
And I'll share the links in the comments. Obviously, when I publish this episode, I can share the links in the comments so people can read a bit more about you and then maybe contact you if they do need any support.
Right.
Um, but
I've
yeah,
also created a workbook to gamify any writing project and make it fun and give yourself points and a board to move forward on. Whether you're doing research, doing the research part of the writing process, the writing part, the editing part, the submission part, whatever you're working on, there's a way to gamify it. I have created a PDF to help you do that. And because you are listening to this podcast, and this amazing project, you can follow the link in the show notes to download it for free.
amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, honestly. And I know that you're really busy at this time of the year as well. And I just wanted to thank you for obviously taking the time to meet with me today from your busy schedule. Whilst this year I'm just going to reframe ADHD from a
Mhm.
deficit to a difference. That's why I set up the project. And I'm looking at kind of aiming at the moment at vulnerable people that don't have any access to any support, that desperately need support, but they haven't got any. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I really appreciate you doing that because I think gamifying something for for me will make it a bit more kind of interesting. So,
Mhm.
yes, obviously, I will post the links to that as well in the show
Perfect.
notes. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you, Susanna. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And let me just say, yesterday when you come back to me and said, "Should we just stop apologizing?" I was like, "Oh my god, I think I might actually love you," because it was like I don't know if it's just an ADHD thing or a neurodivergent thing, but I find that you like the amount of times that you might apologize is just so when someone says, "Let's just not do that anymore," I'm like, "Yes,
Yes.
yes,
I think that you and I had a conversation on LinkedIn, where you can also find me. And we kept apologizing for not responding immediately. I'm sorry I didn't
yeah,
respond. I'm sorry I didn't respond. And I thought, but why? We are ADHDers with full lives. Why can't we are both talking about reframing ADHD. We are both so on this mission to help ADHDers feel good about themselves, not despite the ADHD, but as the whole person they are. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we constantly feeling guilty and apologizing? So I think, yes, you and I are setting the right standards here by refusing to apologize more. And I hope that more people can be their unapologetic selves because of it.
yeah." I mean, 1,000% agree. And I think when we show up as our authentic selves to whatever that we're doing in life, whether that's, you with your ADHD writing coaching or, me with my studies or whatever our listeners are doing, when you kind of are able to start unmasking and showing up as your authentic self, that's when I think really that the awareness starts because people can
Mhm.
see that we're not just a big ball of disorders or deficits, we're actually a big
Right.
ball of fun. We're very creative. My partner says to me every day I'm hilarious, and I don't even try and be hilarious, but it's just the way that the sarcasm and humor that I've got. And it's, when we turn up and just be ourselves, that's when we can kind of really reframe ADHD as not a deficit, as a,
Yes.
it's a difference. We're different. I'm not thick. I'm actually capable. I'm more capable than I've ever given myself credit
Hmm.
for. There's nothing thick about me. It's just I've needed to learn that I'm not. And I've had to kind of learn how to use my ADHD or my natural skills in a way that's suitable for me. That's not a
Yes.
bad thing. That's not a deficit. That's actually quite creative, isn't it? And
Hmm.
you yourself with your coaching. So yeah, I mean, I could talk to you about this for the rest of the year, to be honest. And we're only in January because it fascinates me.
All
But
right. So
um,
when do you have time next week?
Every week. Every week. Listen, if I could get paid to talk about ADHD or just talk in general for the rest of my
Mhm.
life, I'd be a happy lady because I like talking.
Just call yourself a coach. I do it all the time. I spend all my days talking about ADHD with ADHDers who are the most fantastic, creative, exciting, wonderful, groundbreaking thinkers I've ever met. So call yourself a coach, and that is exactly what you'll do. You talk about ADHD, you'll get paid to talk about ADHD every day of your life. I have the best job in the world, Emma.
Oh my God, I need to be an ADHD coach, honestly. Yeah. Yeah. That what is my long-term goal? Well, what is my goal? That that is what I want. Right, I'm a coach now, everyone. I'm an ADHD
There you
coach.
go. There you go. Contact Emma if you want ADHD coaching. Emma,
Yeah,
it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I feel honored.
honestly, it's been a pleasure having you as well. And thank you for setting up the PDF for the gamifying your writing for my listeners or our
Yeah.
listeners. And
You
thank
should
you so
try it
much.
out
And
and let me know what you think.
yeah, I'm going to definitely give it a go. And I'll also share the links to your website and the coaching that you offer. And
Thank
the
you.
body doubling as well, because body doubling is, yeah,
Mhm.
is
And
huge.
the beauty of my body doubling session is it's only for ADHD writers and it is pay what you can. So even if what you can pay is zero, you are still absolutely welcome to join. That is my way of giving back to the ADHD community and being accessible even for people who can't afford me.
Love that. That's amazing. I will make sure
Good.
that I put that in the little episode um episode
Description.
thank you. Yeah, I
Mhm.
call that my brain fart.
Mhm.
My
Yeah,
brain
I
just
have them
farted
all
then.
the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Description.
Now, before
Thank
we
you.
sign off, do you want to see my
Yes.
puppy?
Yes, I'd love to see your puppy. Yeah, I won't put this bit out on the recording, so don't worry. I won't put your puppy out on the
Oh,
recording.
you're
But
allowed.
yes,
He's
please.
he's he's not a private person.
What's his
Isn't he
name?
adorable? Elvis.
Oh, oh my
Hi.
God.
He's Elvis. He's Lagotto Romagnolo, which is an Italian truffle dog.
Truffle dog.
They are bred for finding truffles in the forest.
Oh.
Mhm. Yes.
Oh,
And you? Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad. I hope you don't hear the barking on
no,
the recording.
no, don't worry.
Good.
Don't worry at all. It has been an absolute pleasure, honestly. You'll be hearing from me. I'll be just sending you random messages on LinkedIn and be saying, so when are you free to talk about this, and this? Because it's been a pleasure. And
Absolutely.
it's, yeah, thank you, because I know how busy you are at the moment. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you today. So,
Thank you.
to our listeners, share, follow, enjoy episode 3 with Susanna and myself. And yeah, I will hopefully my followers will hear me again soon. I don't know why I'm laughing, but I just got a bit tongue tied then. I don't know. It's
Do you want
weird
to try that
because
again?
yes, let's try that again. So for our listeners, please follow and share. And next week, I will have a different guest. But for today, thank you, Susanna. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, take care now. I'll see you all soon. And that's the end
Well
of the
done,
podcast
Emma.
in a bit.